All right. This is Book of Origins. Life is a song, sometimes a song of sadness, sometimes a song of joy. Now a dirge, then a hymn echoes through the chambers of creation. Often a gay carol or lilting love song gladdens the ear of the air. All this is the song of life, so lift up your hearts and rejoice in the singing soul, which will in days to come rise on ghostly wings to quiet the inner circles of woe, where the discordant notes of mortals intermingle with the melodious notes of spirit music, winging its way to where the star-girt chorus sings in glory. Book of Origins, Preamble, translated by John Lade Ledilith. This task was undertaken and carried out by order of the Toth Nail Ethan, made in solemn accord, assembled as before times at Tanagakil near Sunderstow, 160 years after the death of Ardpeth, the last king, 20 years after the death of Garadon Pancras, 80 years after the death of Kelwyn, 100 years after the death of Alftarid, 13 years after the death of the great king who died in the year of the devil's breath. This Thealdu, lasting upward of a dozen years, so striking the land that people lost their distinctions and the long conflict came to an end. 44 years after the Battle of Strahard, when the Christian king died in the 46th year, going down with a great slaughter before the hand of Cadwillan of the First Faith, who died at the hands of a treacherous king, being trapped between the trees by Dinsleir. In the month of September, between the 7th and the 10th day in the 3rd year of the reign of Ethelbred, which is the 7th year in the reign of Egfrid, son of Oswey, king of the North Saxondom, the 14th year in the reign of Ardwulf, king of East Saxondom, and the 2nd year in the reign of Ketwin, king of West Saxondom, the 4th year in the reign of Lothair, king of all the Kents, and the 5th year we suffer under the afflicting fires of the Black Bull of the North. It is 222 years since the coming of the long sword-wielding war bands, and the 165 years since the death of Octher. It is 130 years since the last war band came and strayed with the land they took, when Britain ceased to be during the reign of King Ifor. These are the elect Kale Wardens who undertook the work. Hamung and Lewin of the Guttrandors, Pencolith the Dalradian, a smith of the shield makers, Halef the carver, born among the Scots over the sea of the shield makers, Malcuin, a chief born among Quits of the engravers, Enelek the potter, born among the Quits of the shield makers, Epidurod the grinder, born at Alcuth of the coppersmiths, Franwin the swordmaker, son of Clud, a Brit born as a freeman among the Saxons to the west and an engraver of note, Edwin the elder, a talesman who writes, born of a Mercian of the shield makers, and Glazian the Inglinger, who became one of us. This preamble appeared at the back of this book in the first edition. It was moved to the beginning for this edition. Also, some of the first edition ebooks used OGF instead of OGS in the citations. The correct form is OGS for this book. Editor. Chapter 1, World Birth. This is an unhappy time of strife and change, and the old folk knowledge and skills are passing away like leaves falling on flowing water. We of the Danad are therefore gathered together under the shield of Herwheel for the purpose of preserving the things dear to our hearts. To do this, we firstly discover their binding places and secondly commit into writing all the hallowed tales concerned with them. Also, as the mortal memories of men perish with their frail bodies, we deem it well to commit into book writing the old knowledge once written in our minds. Behind us lie 14 earth generations of mankind, and this has been the manner of their naming. The generation of light, the generation of fire, the generation of water, the generation of grass, the generation of trees, the generation of wood, and the generation of stone, and all these together are the blissful generations. Then followed the generation of the spear, the generation of the axe, the generation of the shield, the generation of the sword, the generation of the bow, the generation of the helmet, and the generation of the chariot, and all these together are the homeless generations. The years before us contain 6 full earth generations, and whatever remains of this generation of change. Each of the past earth generations was 3 times the length of the one which followed it. Men ask, as men always will, how the widespread wonderful world came into being, and whose were the feet first treading the good soil upon it. This, masters, is the old tale concerning the dawn time of life, handed down from the blissful morning days of earth's existence. Before time was born, it could be conceived. Before all things seeable by the darting eyes of men were seen by any eye, they were conceived. Before sound was heard by any listening ear, it was conceived. All things now knowable by man were first conceived by none but the inconceivable one, existing solitary in awesome loneliness. Back in the pre-dawn state, there was no feeling, throbbing, loving life beyond the alone one. There was nothing in which something other could be perceived and manifested. The inconceivable one's reflecting mirror was not yet made. Love, the sunlight of life, could not be known, for even one so great could not yet conceive a state of satisfaction in self-love. The one thing not capable of conception was the realization of responsive love. So from the inconceivable one there came a great outpouring melody, the song of conception, the notes winging, vitalizing consciousness outward in radiating ripples. All that is now existing came out of that, which was harmoniously sung into being, and the sweet echoing vibrations still sound in rhythm throughout the many circles of existence. All life and matter vibrate in response to a divinely originated, orchestrated melody and rhythm. As the sweet notes of the divine, lilting music swelled outward, heaven was formed from the song-created radiance of immortal light. Rising on a higher note of ever-increasing splendor into a great pulsating chorus, it hurled forth a whole string of words, scattering them in illuminating brilliance through the black matrix of Ked. It was like a handful of bright pearls being thrown into the darkness of night. In a perfectly timed cadence of melody and harmony, the worlds were hurled into separate existence, each finding its proper place in accordance with its note. All life is therefore nothing except a response to harmony and melody, to the spreading ripples and resounding echoes from the first divine hymn, the life-awakening song. The only disharmonious notes were those which later emerged from the hearts of sinful men. The songs and poems of men poorly stirring the unresponsive heart are futile attempts to recapture some part of the first grand symphony. Men instinctively know they are musicians in the great orchestra of life, singers in the chorus of existence. The song of life still vibrates upon the lute strings of each throbbing heart, filling it with responsive vitality. On earth it can never be heard in perfection, yet it is here the singing lessons must be learned, for once through the dark archway and in the court of splendor, the newly released spirit must introduce itself by song. The good, clean spirit vibrates with a happy, harmonious melody, while the dull, evil-doing spirit rasps out harshly in agonizing discord. The first thing the travel-weary homecoming spirit hears is the welcoming notes of the divine melody. Happy are they who harmonize with it. Sorrowful are those who vibrate discordantly. Life is a song, sometimes a song of sadness, sometimes a song of joy. Now a dirge, then a hymn echoes through the chambers of creation. Often a gay carol or lifting love song gladdens the ear of the air. All this is the song of life. So lift up your hearts and rejoice in the singing soul, which will in days to come rise on ghostly wings to quit the inner circles of woe, where the discordant notes of mortals intermingle with the melodious notes of spirit music, winging its way to where the star-girt chorus sings in glory. Out from the inconceivable one came the radiating substances of Dua, who sits supreme in the invisible universal hub, and this is his circle. The outflowing notes became contrasted among themselves, dividing into two, and those that poured downwards became the substance of Mamvar, the life-bringer. From the life-radiating substance of Mamvar came Mamdada, who spread life wide over the world. The son of Mamdada was Dada, whose name was not spoken in the before times, and he carried the spirits of men in his seed. These are the generations of the ancestral godmen who came from Dada, as they have been known tons, and it is well to know from whence we came, we bring of their blood. We stand high among the proud races of mankind, not being numbered among the least, and sad will be the day when men lose pride in their heritage. Yet it is foretold that the day will surely come, at a time when men stand on a strange threshold with the choice of regeneration or decay and doom. Those generated from the seed of Dada were the three heaven-sent forebears of mankind, named Magog, Gatuma, and Kelly. We are told that these were beings in spirit from dwelling apart from the universal hub at the outer reaches of Kugant. But of this there is now no sure knowledge. It is known only that Magog ruled in the north and east, Gatuma in the south, and Kelly in the west. But old tales tell of Kelly's travels from the wide lands of the east to the sea-girt Green Isle. The consort of Kelly, the all-knowing, he who guards the memories of men, was Kithwin, the first well-beloved, and they had a son and a daughter. The son was dark-visaged Eveg, and the daughter Caraway, the most beautiful of women, who set the standards of womanhood to which all who desire to catch the will-o'-the-wisp of love should aspire. The son of Gatuma was Gatumunga, the sky fighter, whose son was Tuwait, the town founder and metal master, who married Emerith, the sky chief's daughter. The sons were Nodunus, the first earthling, and Megalamish, the wanderer in the in whose days the sky chariots came. It is told how, in the glowing dawn time of the world, Amarith flew on swift wings of the spirit from her kingdom in the west to consult with Tuat, the eastern father, son of Gatumunga. They met beneath the great life tree known as Kaelstrid. They grew at Enoch. They lived a while within the green bower set in the lush land surrounding the life tree, and it was for her the ring of youth was forged. This she gave to her seducer, and so became as other women. While he lived in youth and strength, it is thus that the ring became known as the prize of seduction. Magalamish was a mighty one among men whose fame spread far and wide, and he was called the Lord of Battles, the Victory Winner, the Man-Smiter, the Earth Burner, the Wind Fighter, and the Water Spouter, and called Gilgamesh before times. Those were his names among all the peoples of those days, for not all knew him by name, and some misnamed him. His son was Jovan, whose son was Bethbal, whose son was Amalagad, whose son was Lugad, the hammerer. The daughter of Nadonis was Epha, born of the Sky Mother. Epha married Nud, the under earthman, whose eyes could not bear the daylight, and their son was Gwyn, the fair-faced. Epha ran away from Nud and became the wayward wife of Belsitin. The sons of Magog, the great brother, no, the great brooder, were Calipha and Mamagog, the fertilizer. The son of Kelpha was Helith, the life-bringer, whose daughter was Amarith, the desirable, much besought by the battle kings. Those who hold the old tongue call her Asterith, and say she was the mother of the first true man. These are not things to be hugged to the heart, for it would be a wise man indeed who knew the nature of the first mortal man after the sinful intermingling. The son of Mamagog was Baal the Bright, first husband of Dona Smiling Eyes, and one of their sons was Lu Dutiers, the bright, happy cradle child who laughed in the sunshine. It is told that he shed tears of glistening dew, which healed any wound, and unless there be the rainstones, the story is past understanding. He became king of Kargutharin, where tales of his times are still told in the halls. The other son, Lu's brother, was Malvas Ashriver of the Dark Tears, and it is said that if he cried, the tears falling on bare flesh would rise unhealable weeping sores. The tale goes that Malvas possessed the bale bag containing maggots of sickness and the canker worms of barrenness and infertility. Also, it held within its folds the Bale book with recipes for every dire event and tribulation. His companions were the dread-lopping whale-woves of death, but now none knows the meaning behind the tale. We do not know that Malvas was the forefather of the dark dwarves. We know, too, that the ancient tale-tellers dressed wisdom and truth in garments of frivolity and motley, so only the discerning benefited, while the mindless many folk were momentarily amused, but then passed them by while the mindless many folk were momentarily amused, but then passed them by as things of little consequence. Who, not knowing and looking at the mud mussel, would believe a beauteous pearl must lie within? The son of Lu by his first wife, Anath, she who caused the building and mysterious Camelius for the glorification of men, and who died because of her desire for Thanaros, were Palestine and Phranon. Their daughters were Bronwen and that Nethra, sometimes called Nanaku in the old tongue, who was the first wife of Nodinus and mother of the first full woman. The sons of Lu by Moregu were Kala, Gwynon, the welcomer of warriors, Lear, and Robeth. The first wife of Lear was Pandora, by whom he had two sons, Mandabric and Franz, and a daughter, Bronwyn. By his second wife, the northern beauty, Lear had Thanis, Wathan, and Dylan. The first wife of Bellastin was Epha, who married Nud after being cast out from her home place. His second wife was Franwe, and his son was Evelak, guardian of the gate, and his daughter was Modron, whose son was Owen Wiseheart. The second husband of Dona was Manwedan, and their daughters were Pandora and that Aaron Rada, whose gladdens the hearts of old men. They lived in the days before the Misty Veil became impenetrable, and Avalok ruled the isle of containing a forest of fire apple trees, which men now misunderstand. Many meanings are lost to those who have learned the old tales of wisdom in the new tongue. Aaron Rada married Treth, the white-haired, and their son was Athlon, the strong wave wanderer, Kolhan, the teacher, and Kornayana, the bull-born war watcher. And their daughter was Mebed, who married Brahmathamalin. The son of Athlon was Elon, the seasmith of the floating forge, who married the daughters of Manwidon, for whom he made armor of a mysterious metal, which no axe, spear, sword, or arrow could penetrate. The son of Elon was Coronis, the horn-headed, who married Nulin, the fair maid, daughter of Brahmathamalin, she whom they of the old faith call Tanis the moon maid, but it was not her desire which brought the first daylight, it was another's. Their son was Ledkin the larger, whose son was Hu, great chief of the upright ones, who married Helen Bloderwed, whose son was Aed, who married Sybil the strange priestess, whose son was Bryden, whose sons were Bryden the younger and Belenos the book-bearer. The son of Belenos was Blaudud the builder, who was cured of a corrupting disease by mud from a swine's wallow. Blaudud married Kelwinith, the daughter of Molmed the wise, whose wife was Tirshana by Castwellon the invader, while fighting with the dark men of Philistus, it's not easy with all these names. While fighting with the dark men of Philistus, with whom they had sought refuge. Bethbal married Arnaroth, and their daughter was Anath. Athlin married Nide, daughter of Vala. The son of Blaudud was Elis, whose son was Locrinos. The son of Molmed was Maris, whose son was Kamba, with whom Kelwinith sought refuge in Finkara, over the sea of Meritus. The sons of Kamba was Humba, who failed to build his boats of ash slats, so they came apart, and he was drowned, whose son was Aragon, whose son was Kratalanith. The wife of Humba was Marva, daughter of Firmadamid. The son of Kolhan was Neptoron, and his daughters was Soethi, and Neptoron married Woplin. The sons of Mandabrake were Luck and the arbitrator, who plays with the chance chips, and Dineket, who first taught men to use of healing herbs, and that Lutkin, who was the uncle of Lugad, and who taught men the ways of working with wood, and who could fix a spearhead immovably onto its shaft. There is a tale of variance with others, which states that the daughter of Danket was Nulin the raven-faced, who married her uncle, which ill-omened marriage caused barrennesses among cattle and green-growing corn to lay down in shame. The sister of Neptoron was Soethi of the Fair Isle, who married Lugad Hardhand, the hammerer, who taught the working of bronze and was the father of our people. It is told how he was shot in the thigh by a dwarf's arrow, and how every year at Samhain the deep wound opened and erupted a vile venom, which dropped off to dry into a grey powder. This wound was eventually healed by the kiss of a rainstone, and it is said that in this way its holiness was discovered. But surely the drops of venom are the vile rites of the dwarves. The son of Neptoron was Grekenwad, and his daughter was Nanra. who married Camelog Nath. God, it's a weird name. Camelog Natha, builder of the high walled city over the water, who was the son of Ognana and Brigenda. Camelogothnatha sought refuge in this land and taught men the art of writing on wood and stone. The tales concerning the doings of our forebears in faith and their generations are not well known among us, for we are a different people having another tongue. Yet though some tell them one way and some another, we have sought out that which is common to most. In these times of change, it is well to have an anchor in the past, but unless it bites into a sound seabed, it is of little value. It is said that the sole message which can be given to the future is words written in the past, so we write.